The Boston Celtics expected to make some big moves this summer. They're trying to cut salary. They're going to be a seller out there on the market, and rumors starting to fly about Jaylen Brown and maybe even Derrick White potentially being on the move. Teams certainly in hot pursuit. We've got all the latest. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel, joined by Donnie Freeman. Donnie, we know Boston's going to wind up trying to shed salary. They, unfortunately, even as a Lakers fan, you hate seeing it. Jason Tatum going to be out for almost certainly the entire season next year due to that Achilles injury. The Celtics are going to take a step back this coming season, and now they're going to look to drop below that second-tier apron. Jaylen Brown and Derrick White are certainly going to generate a lot more buzz out there on the trade market than some of the other guys they're going to look to move. Maybe Kristaps Porzingis or Drew Holiday or someone like that. Could you see the Celtics maybe making the big swing like that, though, and cashing in a player like Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, I think it's much more likely with Derrick White, but with Jaylen Brown, I think it's much more unlikely that winds up happening. But I mean, who knows? New ownership group and all that. Maybe they want to just pivot in a different direction, but I would bet against it.
So here's what we've got going on. And I agree. I think it's probably unlikely, but that doesn't mean teams aren't trying. Shams Charania, when he was on the Pat McAfee show, said teams are throwing, quote, crazy offers at Jaylen Brown and Derrick White. So crazy offers. Like, look, there's a point. Teams will be determined to keep certain players. But there's a point if the offers get strong enough where you just say, well, damn, I got to take that. I mean, we just saw it. Memphis didn't really want to trade Desmond Bane. And the next thing you know, you're talking 4 first-round picks. And they went, well, okay, let's go ahead and do that. And they traded Bane to the Orlando Magic. I do wonder if there is that breaking point here for the Boston Celtics as well, where the offer gets strong enough for either Jaylen Brown or Derrick White. And Boston relents and says, yeah, maybe the way we do save money here, and maybe the way we do drop below this damn second-tier apron is by moving two of our 3 most important players are Jaylen Brown and Derrick White. Maybe they do give in on this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's unlikely, but it's definitely on the table as an option if they wanted to go down that route. And, in terms of like Jaylen, the reality is that this year upcoming, most likely anyway, odds are the next year is mostly like a gap year for this team. With Jason down, all that stuff, it's most likely going to be a gap year for this team. And so if you're Jaylen, you're 29 years old, maybe you get to a point where with some of these other guys, Derrick White, 31, maybe they look at it and say, well, we're kind of aging out of this. We could obviously come back, but maybe we want to get just a little bit younger, and we have an option to get a younger player than Jaylen that maybe isn't exactly what he is, but, with a couple more years, we'll be right back here. And maybe they make that decision ultimately. And then on Derrick White, similarly to Drew, he's somebody I think teams would covet, but you don't have that 35-year-old player, getting a player option of 37 a couple years from there. That makes a pretty big difference with Drew. And so with Derrick, I think he's the type of guy that you can mostly plug in anywhere, and teams would really love to have him.
Who's more valuable, Derrick White or Jaylen Brown, when we factor in the contracts? Derrick White, $28 million this coming season, then $30 million, then 32.5, then 34, almost 35 million. So 4 years guaranteed under contract, a player option on the last year. Jaylen Brown, 4 years under contract, but 53 million, 57 million, 61 million, and then 65 million. Which player do you think teams would give up more in order to get?
I mean, I think that the answer to this has to be Brown, right? Like, it's just, I think that Jaylen Brown he's a freaking finals MVP. Like, I think that you have to kind of consider that as well with Jaylen. Like, he's able to do more on the basketball court for you. Really solid 3-point shooter as well, despite the fact that, the volume and percentage wasn't great this year. He's solid. He can get it done for you if you need that. Solid defensive player as well. Just an all-around player for you. So I'd imagine it's him. But if somebody tried to talk me into Derrick White at that value, I wouldn't be mad at it. Like, if you made the opposite argument, I wouldn't be mad at it.
I think it comes down to this. Jaylen Brown is a kind of player that you build around. Derrick White is a player that you built with.
He's a glue guy, right? Like,
exactly.
Derrick White is a glue guy. He's not going to be somebody that commands a ton of touches. He's very good at what he does, which is 3-and-D and ball moving, and he's great at those things.
I think that Derrick White could be the final piece on a championship team, coming in, anybody. I mean, you look at what the Oklahoma City Thunder did, getting
Yeah,
Alex Caruso. He
I was
could
gonna bring him
be,
up.
yeah, like almost like a souped up version of that, because he gives you the defense and he gives you that incredible 3-point shooting on the offensive end and what he can do there. So you get Derrick White as the final piece to put a team over the top. Like, imagine if you are, I mean, there were some rumblings about maybe the San Antonio Spurs trying to bring back Derrick White after being the team to trade him to the Boston Celtics. But when we look at some of these teams out there, Houston not being too far away from maybe being able to make a real run. Would Orlando have had a lot of interest in Derrick White? Certainly would imagine they would
Absolutely.
have. What about some of these teams that are out there that feel like they are a piece or two away in either conference? That's the kind of team that would go after a Derrick White. Whereas a team going after Jaylen Brown would be saying, Jaylen Brown is coming in to be one of our top 2 players. That's what the money says. He would be one of our top 2 players. And so then you'd have to look at, I think, a different set of teams necessarily that would be going after a player like Jaylen Brown. So there's a difference between the two. Both are great players, and I think teams would be willing to give up a lot to give either of them.
Yeah, you're kind of talking me into Derrick White, man. You're kind of doing it, like, just because I think that if you're trading, like you were saying, if you're trading for a Derrick, it's because he is the guy, like a Caruso, similarly, where you feel like he's going to put you over the top. And there is immense value in a role player. I mean, speaking of Caruso, look at what he's doing in the finals right now. He has been amazing. And if Derrick White can give you that or more than that at a $28-30 million salary, I think that's pretty solid for you as well. But that ultimately is why I think that Boston shouldn't want to trade either of these guys. But again, the reality is that next season, I don't know what they're doing. So they have to shed salary. They have ways to do so, potentially with Kristaps and Drew. Not to say those guys aren't valuable, but if teams are going to just throw quote unquote crazy offers at you, and no matter how much you may like some of these guys, maybe you just have to bite on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a point where you have to say we're going to be better off just taking this deal because this team is so desperate to go get a win now piece. And it's one of the things when we look at the market right now, there's so many teams that can convince themselves that they are a player away. Maybe it's 2 players away that look at the East. They say, hey, it's wide open. We can be the team to make the run. That's what Orlando just did. They look at the West and say, man, if we're going to keep up with everybody, we're going to stay in the thick of things, we'd better go get somebody. But there's not a ton of teams out there that you look at and say, well, clearly this team is selling. Memphis isn't a team we would have pegged as a seller going into the summer, and yet here we are. They were offered so much for Desmond Bane that they just said, okay, all right, fine. We'll go ahead and we'll do this. And we think that in the long run, this is going to benefit our franchise. That would be the type of situation that Boston could find themselves in. We know they're going to be a seller, but not with their key pieces unless suddenly this shifts and these offers, again, quote from Shams, crazy. If it really is crazy, I do wonder, could we see fireworks from the Celtics? Maybe it's not Porzingis moved. Maybe it's not Drew Holiday moved. Maybe it's 1 or 2 of Jaylen Brown and Derrick White. That would certainly add some fireworks here to what we already expect to be a really exciting NBA offseason.
Yeah, I agree. Like, and for Jaylen specifically, like, so for Derrick, I think it's much more clear. You put him on any team that needs what he does and is already like right at the door. Like, he'd be great on like the Denver. He'd be great on the Lakers. He'd be great on a number of teams. For Jaylen, I would love if he was in like Detroit or Atlanta. Just looking at some of the teams, like I think he'd fit great in programs like that, and would be that second guy and could help get them to the next level, right? I'm not sure that that's a championship, but to the next level, because those teams are already teams that have, another star level player on them, and he could be, their co-star and get them there. But for Derrick White, I mean, and even like Jaylen in Boston would be good, but like, yeah, Jaylen, I think, could just plug in mostly, or Derrick, could plug in mostly anywhere and be fine.
Yeah, agreed. He is that true glue guy, can fit in anywhere and be an addition to anybody, a positive addition in a big, big way. But everybody give us your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think teams will be able to pry Jaylen Brown and or Derrick White away from the Boston Celtics, particularly when Shams is saying they're crazy offers?
Yeah. Real quick.
Real
quick. Philly. I don't know if the salary matches. If you're, do you want the number?
Oh no! Oh no! I just realized where you're going with this. Oh no! No, you're not.
Do you want the number 3 pick or not? Take it or leave it.
not. Are you talking Paul George? Are you talking podcast P for Jaylen Brown? But you get the number 3 pick. Oh my
Take
god.
Take it or leave it.
Oh my god. You know what? If Jaylen Brown was like 27 and not 29, you know what I mean? Like then he fits in the timeline with Tyrese Maxey and McCain and all that. Man, you might talk me into that. That might be worth the number 3.
Would PG be on the team in the first place if that was the case? Also, like what the hell did they do with PG? That's just terrible.
That's true. What would Boston even do with him though? That's the problem. Boston might say, "Okay, cool, we're getting the 3 pick," but then what do we?
I think they could talk themselves into another year. You know, a year from now, PG, he's like 65% Jaylen Brown, but you also got the other player from the 3rd pick. I think you could talk yourself into it.
Jason
Tatum will be healthy. He's got a little bit of an increased load. You know, he'll go up to being a 32 point per game guy with 8 assists or something. I don't know. Hey, take it or leave it.
You're going to speak that into existence. And next thing you know, it's going to be the Celtics with the number 3 pick.
There's no bias at all, I promise.
None at all. None at all. All right, everybody, give us your thoughts on crazy trade talks, including Donnie's crazy ideas for Jaylen Brown and Derrick White. Let us know your thoughts.
You said his name, not me, by the way. I never actually said his name.
That's true. That's true. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Until next time, see ya and stay safe.